I did not join the family vacation with them because my sister insisted that I babysit her kids. I told her I won't. When I was 24 years old, I became a helper and babysitter for them in family outings. Later on, I had to leave my parents' home because I was always asked to watch my 2 nephews. Last summer, we took a family vacation on the coast. My parents paid for my journeys, including my hotel accommodation, but I was forced to share the room with 2 highly energetic boys. My sister had her room, and me to take care of the children. Most of the time was spent babysitting, and when I had mentioned that I would be wanting some personal time, the reply was, "And it's free." I didn't do much that I wanted to, apart from going to an art museum. This is one tradition I enjoy on a coastal trip, but it proved boring for the kids. My parents were planning a beach trip for this year in July. I told them that this time I would be driving myself and paying for a hotel room so that I could have my own space. They were taken aback and brought up the cost, but I still stood my ground. They said that was no issue because I have a good job and a good car, so I can take care of my expenses easily. And that's when the attack began. I told them my reasons for coming. I wanted to enjoy this vacation like an adult, not as a child as they had done last year. My parents told this to my sister, and she phoned me to rant about it, saying I was going to spoil the trip by going off on my own, leaving her to handle 2 boys on her own. I got fed up and pointed out that last year she dragged me into her mayhem, and I hardly enjoyed anything I wanted. I was even made to feel like the bad guy just for wanting to visit an art museum. I told her I was an adult, and I deserved to have my own vacation too. Now, my sister isn't speaking to me, and my parents keep pressuring me to ride with them to keep the peace. Even though it's starting to wear on me, I'm standing my ground. Am I wrong for not wanting to give in? I know it's going to be a little harder on them without me here to assist, but this is something I need to do. Update: less than 2 hours after I posted this, my sister, who apparently checks Reddit very early in the morning, found it. She's furious with me. No one is commenting on her side. She ranted about how hard it was to raise twins and how I, as a young single woman, should step up and help her because she deserves a break. I stood firm on my decision, and now my sister has involved our parents. I'm expecting a call from them any moment. Update: I'm off work now and can share what happened. Long story short, it's over. My sister got our parents involved and they ended up reading my post. They were shocked by the flood of comments. While they are mad at me for posting our issues online, I told them that if only they had listened to me initially, this would not have happened. I am so tired of the keep the peace mentality at everyone's expense to buy harmony with my sister. Some heated discussions led my parents to confront my sister, and now the entire vacation has been canceled. Thank God, though, the hotel hadn't been booked yet, but now my parents are fighting with my sister, blaming me for everything. My nephews are also upset as they cannot have the beach trip. At lunch, my sister calls and makes a snide comment, implying I don't have a life, so she needs help. So I recorded the entire conversation and presented it to my parents. That just became the new point of contention. Small update. I wasn't going to update again, but there is a bit more for now. My parents have promised never to push babysitting duties on me again and acknowledged that what happened last year was unfair. Right now, they are angry with my sister for her remarks about me not having a life, while my sister continues to play the victim. My brother-in-law, on the other hand, seems to be avoiding the whole situation by spending most of his time at work. Thanks to all the commenters, you guys have really brightened my day. Update 1. My parents apologized, but my sister hasn't, at least not yet. About a week ago, I opened this account to ask whether I was wrong, and the strong consensus was that I was not. Well, quite a lot happened since, and I just have too much to post in a single post. A friend suggested posting here instead. What started off as an innocuous question has literally opened a Pandora's box in my family. My parents and older sister had become too complacent, relying on me for childcare of my young twin nephews over the years. I stayed at home until I was 23 because I wanted to save money while attending college. Luckily, a scholarship covered most of my tuition, and living at home allowed me to avoid piling up debt while working part-time. I appreciate that, but for some reason, after graduation, everyone just assumed that I had unlimited free time. Last summer, someone convinced me to go along on a family vacation. It turned out to be anything but a vacation for me. I was dragged into babysitting my two 6-year-old nephews. I even had to share a hotel room with them. And let me tell you, they didn't listen to a word I said until I called their mom twice. On top of that, I was treated like the bad guy whenever I wanted to do something that didn't involve the kids. The family essentially operated on a majority rules basis, but ironically, I wasn't considered part of that majority. After my last post, I had a sit-down with my parents and complained to them about the unequal treatment. And, to my credit, they admitted to me that they were wrong. At least on their side, it feels like that was a step forward following such an exhausting and frustrating experience. Last year, I decided it was time to move out, without anyone knowing, so they all were caught off guard. By that summer, I had already settled into my own place. A great job fell into my lap right after college, thanks to an internship, and moving closer to work reduced my commute from 50 minutes to just 20. My sister was the most upset about this because it meant no more free babysitting on weekends. Even after I moved, she still tried to rope me into helping. Sometimes I gave in, most of the time after pizza bribery, and this became a new normal. Last month, my parents announced yet another family vacation to the same spot on the coast, with an expectation that this time it was going to work out the same as before. Right away, I realized it for what it was, a trap. And if I were to go along with my parents and they pay for the hotel room, I'd be caught in the trap once more into the frustrating experience of before. So I nonchalantly mentioned that I would drive myself and pay for my own accommodations. That's when everything spiraled. Realizing they couldn't corner me as they had last time, my parents resorted to near begging, and my sister tried to manipulate me with gaslighting and guilt trips. Spoiler alert, I didn't give in. I finally decided to share my story in an Am I the Jerk post prompted by constant harassment. My sister somehow discovered the post within an hour, and chaos followed. Initially, the whole family sided against me. My sister called our parents, and they quickly called me while I still had a bit of time to talk. They called me that morning and kept their conversation with me while reading the post. I asked them point blank if what I had written was untrue, and they dodged this question by saying it was an exaggeration. But then I pointed out to them several specific details they knew to be true. Then I suggested they go and take a look at the comments. There were far too many for them to read through all of, but kept refreshing the page on my computer and keeping them up to date with the comments that are growing. I made them aware of how sick and tired I was and that their keep-the-peace attitude always seemed to come at my expense for the benefit of my sister. And with that said, I ended the call with them because it had run quite long. They did seem visibly shaken, however, by the sheer quantity of comments, which in a day easily doubled and magnified their unease. This was the start of making them think about what they were doing. My sister, on the other hand, was trying to reach me at work. My phone was on silent, so she had to settle for leaving voicemails and texts. She did not give up, however, and finally reached me while I was on my lunch break. When we finally spoke, she said I was turning our parents against her. Apparently, my parents to cancel the entire vacation. Later, my parents admitted they had initially deflected blame out of embarrassment, but fully accepted responsibility after some reflection. They acknowledged that relying on me as their default babysitter, even after I'd moved out, was unfair. While they tried to justify it by reminding me they hadn't charged me rent while I was in college, I countered by pointing out that children don't ask to be born, and I had been doing my best to pave my own way. Moreover, I added that my dad had been given the same support from his parents while attending college. That was it. Any other justification ended there. To my sister, I presented those facts in our conversation. That is when her colors surfaced. In the course of our conversation, she sort of hinted that I don't have a life where free time on weekends has to be spent helping her. She complained about the fatigue of going out without kids unless someone else would care for them. My sister is one of those stay-at-home mothers with a husband with a good income and lives comfortably in a home that the couple owns rather than rent. Frankly, those nephews were not any responsibility of mine, but she and my parents pushed it on me and anticipated its continuation. But after I refused to give in, she slammed the phone down on me. Little did I know that I had recorded her call, which I replayed for my parents to hear. They were pretty angry. My sister stepped up, telling them it's all this girl's fault. We should be trying to save her. I told my sister that was one of the most narcissistic things she'd ever said to me. It took a few days, but her husband finally intervened and made her apologize. I'd never seen her so subdued. She was almost in tears. In the midst of all this, it was clear that one of the reasons I was the go-to babysitter was that she didn't like strangers, not because I was being paid. Or was it? My brother-in-law confessed that he had assumed she was paying me for my time to watch the kids. After I left my parents' house, my sister didn't even offer gas money for all the times I helped. She would just hand me enough cash to cover a portion of food for myself and the kids and let me keep the leftover change. It turns out she had been shortchanging me for months. During her less than sincere apology, this came to light, and her husband was furious. He insisted she pay me back everything she owed, which she did grudgingly, completely from her savings. She didn't seem too happy about it, but that was that. Her husband also apologized to me for not stepping in sooner and letting her take advantage of me. He assured me that they would hire a proper babysitter moving forward. While it might put a small dent in their budget, it would allow my sister to enjoy her date nights again without relying on me. A family meeting soon followed and was held at my parents' house. Everything was placed out in the open and apologies all around. The family vacation was reinstated by my parents, though I told them that it would be in my car and at my own cost for hotels. I warned them that if my sister attempted to bring me back to babysitting, I would book a room in the worst hotel in town if necessary. She promised never to do it again. If, after about a month, I do not post an update from my trip, you can safely assume that everything went well this time. Update 2, my sister wants the posts taken down. Having family members who are aware of your online presence has its downsides. Yesterday, after I had gotten off work, my sister called me and asked if people were still commenting on my posts. She admitted she couldn't bring herself to read them anymore since the feedback about her was so harsh. I was honest with her. Comments are still coming in daily, at least 10 or so, and most of them echo the same criticisms. This upset her even more, and she started crying, demanding that I delete my posts. I firmly refused. I told her she could complain to whoever she wanted, but the posts would stay up because they serve as my safeguard. After everything she put me through, acting as if my life should revolve around hers, withholding money she owed me for babysitting and forcing me into a caretaker role during last year's so-called family vacation, I'm standing my ground. And that's why no one is happy with her at the moment, after everything she did with me. I almost didn't even have fun at all throughout all of that stupidness. Then I stated how my posts were sent to other sites, and there were requests to take my story and create an article from it or even put it into videos. My sister freaked out and hung up on me. Shortly after, my parents called me, pleading with me to take the posts down. I denied them, saying that the only reason I shared this story was because they wouldn't stand up for me and make it clear to my sister that I was good enough to be treated equally, not as her own servant. I told them that I am neither her butler, her babysitter, nor even a handyman. That is, I am just her brother and a person. If they were under such circumstances, wouldn't they have had enough by that time? They understood me, but still insisted on deleting the posts. I stood my ground and told them that unless they start defending me when my sister runs to them with her problems, I'll keep speaking out. Let her deal with the fallout from her actions. She needs to clean up her own mess for once. I didn't sign up to be a stand-in parent for her kids. I have my own life and career to focus on. I am still at the starting point of my life and hope soon to have a girlfriend because there is a girl I wish to ask out. I'm doing very well and nobody will stop me. They could either back down or continue encouraging my sister, but I told them that the latter would only spell doom for them. If drama ends, this will only stop this post. I kept my identity to myself and had the right to voice my frustration. It made my mom cry and dad shut his mouth tight. I told them that crying won't make anything any different. They know what will make this stop, not enabling my sister. Then my sister called again, indignant that our parents said they were done with all this and she needed to get it straightened out herself. She also instructed her to be nicer to me, which I thought about as her twitching internally while screaming inside. I couldn't help being facetious when I said, "Be nice to my kid brother, do I Google that?" That made her cry too. Later, my brother-in-law called to get my side of the story. He was upset about my still posting and for making his wife cry, but I explained everything to him. He said he'd have another talk with my sister. I'm hoping this drama finally ends here, but the family vacation is still planned for late June. I have already booked my accommodation and taken a day off from work, so we shall be leaving on a Friday. Moreover, my room is not even near those my parents, sister, brother-in-law, and nephews will be using. It's not even on the same floor. I will definitely go my own way, there at the coast, and have nothing to do with their family activities. I will go to galleries, try local food, and just enjoy the freedom of not having a care in the world. Update 3. Now, after the family vacation, some things have gone as expected and bad. The good part was that my parents didn't enable my sister's attempts to get me to babysit. Yes, she tried, but it worked. The bad part was that my sister tried to find out which room I was in, and that backfired, getting her in trouble with her husband again. First, I made sure to let the hotel know they should not share any details about me with anyone, except the authorities if required. The hotel, which was speaking over the phone, committed not to share any of the details. On vacation day, I left much earlier in the morning than everybody else in the family did. I knew the family wouldn't be ready to go as a group until at least 9 a.m., so I left at 8 a.m. Although check-in wasn't until 1 p.m., I wanted to get a jump on things. I sent out a group text letting everyone know, then hit the road for the 3-hour drive. I was upsetting my parents as they had already planned a family brunch to pass by the way. I just reminded them that no one ever informed me about this brunch, so I was able to follow my plan to stop for fast food instead. I arrived early at the hotel and too early to check in, so I made a point of speaking with the front desk staff to ensure that no one would get access to my room to see my parents or sister. They assured me they wouldn't share my information, but I let them know I knew it happened sometimes, so I just wanted to cover myself just in case. If my mom, sister, or their children came over and were guilt-tripping me in some way of respecting my remote wife, I told them that they shouldn't be letting it happen. They clumsily promised me no one but myself would enter my room, so after this I took a walk and went to get some food. An hour later, I returned to find the parking lot packed with my parents' car and the big SUV belonging to my brother-in-law. First, before going to the desk, I cleared the lobby and then asked the clerk if the family members inquired after me and where was I. She said yes, they had, but she did not give out any information about me to them. Apparently, my sister had tried to make a go of it, but was shot down by her husband. I came in, checked myself in, and went into my room, then called my parents. I did not mention knowing what they attempted with the clerk, and conveniently, they never brought it up. Later, we all congregated as a family to venture out. At one point, my sister asked me to babysit for her for a minute. I flatly said no. I knew what she was doing. She would pretend to leave the house for a few minutes and then be gone for 2 hours. I caught her on it, and her husband told her to stop trying to get me to watch their kids. What did my sister do? She broke down and cried, saying she needed a break. Her husband turned to her, clearly frustrated, and reminded her he was tired too, but wasn't complaining. My mom gave me a dirty look, so I went up to her and let her know. If she even thought about asking me to babysit those kids, I'd walk away from the family vacation then and there. It's not my job, and I'm totally tired of my mother and sister acting as if it is. That made my mom cry and then started repeating, "You're right. It's an old play she does to get her way and make me do something." I just let her know to drop it and leave the room. My mom and sister never tried anything for the rest of the day. Later, after dinner, my family crammed into the elevator to return to the hotel, but I didn't get on with them. They asked me why, and I said I would wait for the next one. My sister glared at me, knowing exactly what I was doing. I spent the next 10 minutes sitting in the lobby watching YouTube on my phone before finally taking the elevator up. I was on a different floor, actually way at the end of that hotel. I had an excellent night. The following morning, we all went out to breakfast, but made sure that they departed before me. If I hadn't done that, I would have still been the last one to leave, like I was when I first entered the day before. Breakfast was fair, and then I shot out a message stating I was off to do my own thing for the day. My mom brought up plans to go to the aquarium and a few other places, so I said to my mom that I would join them for those. Then the rest of that day was all mine until the family dinner. They liked that, and the rest of the day went well too. My sister caught me walking out of my room one evening in the hotel. She probably walked the entire floor to look for me. I retired a bit to my room as I was tired from walking. However, when I had to leave for them, she was just in the hallway. She attempted to corner me and stated I was ruining the family trip for her because it seemed no different than at home since she had to manage her children. I called her bullshit because my parents were doing so much to help her. I said that I was through being her scapegoat and the situation was over and she should just leave me alone and move on with her life. She began yelling at me and she said, "Hey, I'm trying to talk to you," and I couldn't care less. I was going out for dinner, so I said whatever. She followed me inside the elevator and neither said a word to the other. When I went to meet my parents and my brother-in-law, then I told them that their daughter was stalking me and trying to find my room. She was spoken as a child and had some pity party over herself after. I let her know that she needed to quit milking this whole situation and grow up. The days she was allowed to impose her will over me were over. I walked out of the lobby and into my car, making sure to beat the others to dinner this time. When everyone else made their appearance, my sister looked down, but one single word wasn't uttered on what had happened previously, and didn't care. My sister had not made any contact all through that whole evening. As much as I didn't mind riding in the elevator, I told them bluntly that unless it was urgent, no one was knocking on my door. In fact, I had placed a "Do Not Disturb" sign for that reason. On the last day, everything went well. Neither did my sister nor my mom bother me. They had finally given up at this point. Yeah, while on vacation, I did spend some time playing with my nephews. Not a total schmuck. I wasn't stonewalling them. I kept up the fun uncle role, just not the babysitter uncle. The kids didn't seem to care. They just wanted to play, and I ended up taking each one home with a little bag of crystals and polished stones to take back to their people. My sister and her husband were involved in a little drama, but it was pretty tame stuff that I didn't even pay attention to. The trip as a whole would have been a win, in the sense that it really hit home for my mom and sister that the way things used to be with me is over, and I'm now going to be living my life. Update 4, my mother and sister caught my last post and they still don't know when to let things go. Hey mom, hey sis, I warned you that if you didn't stop, I'd come back to Reddit, and here I am. To cut it short, my mom and sister saw my last post, and of course they freaked out. My sister has been stalking my account for days because she knew I would post. Well, what did she expect, that I would just say everything went perfectly? She called me crying, saying that I made her look like a bad mother. I said, well, if the glass slipper fits. She kept arguing with me, but she showed me anything in that post that wasn't true, right? She tried several times to do so, and reminded her of every detail, which was correct. So, what does she do? She calls mom. I have mom appearing at my door, demanding that I delete all the posts. I said no, and had ammunition for one more. I managed to make her leave in tears. I called both my parents and bluntly told them on the phone that their enabling of my sister was the source of dysfunction in our family dynamic. So there goes the hope of me returning to how things were before, if they ever had hope. My parents said, my sister told them, for the love of God, stop blaming the loving and leave all of this alone. They cannot bear the stress of me being my revengeful self anymore. Well, my sister had a full-on pity party saying no one loves me, and my parents had to remind her of reality. I haven't heard anything from my brother-in-law, and I'm pretty darn sure he's staying neutral, so I don't think it can be good for the marriage of his wife with me. So, out of respect for him, I will say to him, I am sorry, man, but his wife pushed me too hard. My parents are making my sister see a therapist because she cannot both be a mother and hang on to all the vices that characterize her former life. As they would say, she needs to woman up. Anyway, I shall not make any more comments on the matter. Sis, if you don't stop thinking I should be your personal babysitter, watchdog, and everything else while acting like the world's against you because you can't control me, then we won't be able to be around each other. Maybe we can move past this if you're willing. Don't give me a reason to post again. As for future posts, they'll only involve me and how I'm treated. If you treat me like a decent human being, then this is all over. Capiche? Update. My parents and I sat down and had a long talk in wherein they apologized. For now, we agreed that I'll keep some distance till Thanksgiving. Last night, I also had a talk with my brother-in-law over some cold beers. He said to my sister that if she didn't get counseling, he would leave her. They are currently looking to get her a counselor. He also said that although at home she was terrible to me, she is such a loving and affectionate wife. She did acknowledge that being an only child didn't help much in keeping resentment towards me, what with the age difference too. She harbors that grudge for a long time, and it just keeps piling up. She has agreed to counseling. She will be going whenever they get everything set up for her. They also found someone qualified to take care of the nephews. Other than that, my brother-in-law admitted he was even angry with me, but stepped aside when I needed help. We both agreed we had a mess that is best put behind us. So we are letting that rest and moving forward. On the bright side, these posts led me to meet someone. The girl I liked had a feeling it was me after reading them and was waiting for me to say something. We're going on our first date tonight, so I want to thank everyone here for their immense support. It really meant a lot to me.